Fired, Ms. Escobar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Whitaker, this hearing began this morning at 9:30. I've been waiting almost 6 hours. It's nearly 3:30 in the afternoon. I've been waiting nearly 6 hours to ask my questions. I'm going to ask you for a favor. Out of respect for this committee, out of respect for me as a member of Congress, I'm going to ask that you try not to run out the clock and that you please answer my questions with a yes or a no. And if I have a follow-up, that you please answer the follow-up as succinctly as possible.
Congresswoman, with all due respect,
I'm sorry, excuse me.
With all due respect, I'm going to answer your questions.
Sir. I've watched you do that to every member on this committee.
Because a lot of questions don't have yes, no answers.
Time belongs to the member.
Thank you. I represent El Paso, Texas. I live on the safe, secure, vibrant U.S.-Mexico border. Unfortunately, my community, one of tremendous goodwill and generosity, has been ground zero for many of this administration's cruel, anti-immigrant, anti-American policies, including family separation, child detention in tents, the ongoing prevention of asylum seekers from stepping foot on American soil at our ports of entry, and in December, the death of 2 immigrant children in U.S. custody. Earlier, you said you believed every life is valuable, and I would hope and assume that that includes the lives of the most vulnerable among us. There is a new policy that is about to, unfortunately, be rolled out in my community called the Migrant Protection Protocol, which I believe is a misnomer for a dangerous and, in some cases, deadly, and I believe also an illegal policy that allows our government to return migrants and asylum seekers back to Mexico while they await their asylum hearing. Here's my question. Because the Department of Justice oversees the Executive Office for Immigration Review, will the Department of Justice ensure that asylum seekers have access to counsel in Mexico in order to allow them to prepare for their hearings? Yes or no?
We're going to continue to follow the policies at EOR that are currently in place.
Will you facilitate, assist, help ensure that asylum seekers have access to legal counsel in Mexico? Yes or no?
Congresswoman, there is a very well-defined process for asylum seekers to obtain counsel, and we're going to continue to follow that. Of course,
Mr. Whitaker, even while they're in Mexico?
As the Acting Attorney General, I cannot make an assurance, especially regarding what happens in a foreign country. I mean, I know you understand that.
And this is part of the reason why this is such a terrible policy. Another question. About a week after the policy was announced, reports surfaced that immigrant rights advocates and attorneys were denied entry into Mexico. The attorneys said their passports had been flagged, and reports also indicated that this was not an issue on the Mexican side, but it was on the U.S. side. Did the Department of Justice have anything to do with flagging these passports?
Congresswoman, I'm not familiar with the situation you're describing, but I'm happy to look into it and get back to you.
Thank you. Another question related to this issue. Does the Department of Justice have an immigrant advocate watch list?
Congresswoman, I'm not aware of the question you're asking me, the answer to it, so I'm happy to look into it and get back to you, but that's not something that sounds familiar and that I prepared for today.
I look forward to the answers to those questions. Now, switching gears a little bit. At the President's State of the Union address, he claimed that my community, El Paso, Texas, quote, used to have extremely high rates of violent crime, one of the highest in the entire country, end quote, and he claimed that we became one of the safest communities in America because of a wall. Data from the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting Program shows that El Paso has historically been one of the safest communities in the nation, and that we were such long before a wall was constructed. Do you have any reason to disagree with the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting data?
Congresswoman, we use the UCR on a regular, ongoing basis to not only know where our crime hotspots are, but to also put our resources at the Department of Justice.
Sir, that's not my question. Let me repeat my question.
Okay.
Do you have any reason to disagree with the FBI's uniform crime reporting data?
Congresswoman, I think the UCR.
Do you have any reason, sir, to disagree with your FBI's data?
As I sit here today,
Yes or no?
I do not have any reason
Okay,
to disagree
great.
with the FBI's
Perfect.
data.
Thank you very much. Switching gears again. Did you ever create...
The gentlelady's time has expired. I'll let her finish this one question. And
Thank you, Chairman. Did you ever create, direct the creation of, see, or become aware of the existence of any documents relating to pardons of any individual?
I am aware of documents relating to pardons of individuals, yes.
the gentlelady's time has expired. I'm going to ask one question to follow up on the gentlelady's. Sir, since it is, black letter law that someone in the United States may apply for asylum, that any person who applies for asylum and states a reason, therefore, is entitled to have that claim adjudicated, that that person is entitled to legal assistance as that claim is adjudicated. Doesn't it strike you that a policy that says that people who set foot on American soil and claim asylum will be sent to a foreign country where they may not have access to legal help, which they are constitutionally guaranteed for their asylum adjudication, may have a constitutional problem?
Congressman, I'm sure you're aware that federal law allows asylum seekers to be returned to a safe third country.
I'm not aware, though, that it allows people not that allows the government to do something that effectively eliminates their right to counsel for their asylum claim. This concludes today's hearing. I want to thank all the members who are still here for their patience and their fortitude. I want to thank Attorney General Whitaker for appearing today.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Jackson-Lee.
Thank you. I'm not asking, I'm putting these questions on the record.
Excuse me, submit them for the record.
Yeah, I will sit them for a record regarding...
Without objection, the questions are admitted.
And the article, and three articles for the record, GQ, Washington Post, New York Times, and also an article by Shane Croucher.
Without objection, the articles are admitted. Before we adjourn, I want to note for the record that, Mr. Whitaker, that you owe us responses on a number of issues raised here today, responses that we intend to secure, including but not limited to the times and dates you were briefed on the special counsel's investigation, your communications with the president after you received those briefings, the basis for your statement that the special counsel's investigation is reaching its conclusion, and whether you told the special counsel not to take any specific investigative or prosecutorial steps. I would also note that your testimony was at best inconsistent on the topic of your communications with the White House prior to your tenure at the department. It is not credible that you both interviewed for a job handling the president's response to the special counsel's investigation and never conveyed your opinions about that investigation to the White House. We require answers to these questions. I ask the department to work with the committee to provide them. As part of that work, I fully intend to call you back for an interview under subpoena if necessary, and I expect more fulsome answers at that time. Without objection, all members will have 5 legislative days to submit additional written questions for the witness or additional materials for the record. And with the thanks of the chairman, the hearing is adjourned.